Hey guys, this is Alachia, and this is my review for May, December. This just recently came out on Netflix, and I got a chance to watch it. It is a film starring Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore, and Charles Melton. It is directed by Todd Haynes and was written by Sammy Birch and I think her husband, Alex Mashenik. It's loosely based on the real-life tabloid story of Mary Kay Letourneau, where she was caught having sex with a 13-year-old student, a person whom she had started to engage in a relationship when he was 12 years old. And the story that unfolded after that, where she continued to then engage with him even after she was arrested, and subsequently having children with him. And I feel like I didn't know how they were going to be able to pull off this story without it being absolutely inappropriate, because I don't care how old a character you get to play, a 13 or 12-year-old, never, ever, ever going to be appropriate for me. And so I thought that the way that the screenplay tackled this subject was really well done, in that it takes the life of this character, in this case, the woman's name is Gracie, and she had a scandal where she had engaged with a young 13-year-old boy at a pet shop that they both worked at, and they were caught, and then subsequently had 3 children together. And this young boy is now 36 years old. His name is Joe. And they've invited this actress, Elizabeth Berry, played by Natalie Portman, who's going to be playing her in an upcoming independent film, to observe them so that she can get a better glimpse as to who they are and maybe capture her and their family and their life the way that I suppose Gracie and Joe want the film to actually represent them as. And so by having Gracie and Elizabeth, Julianne Moore, and Natalie Portman's characters go head to head with each other, what you're actually seeing from the way that they've written the script is a portrayal of the tabloid side of the way we look at a character like Gracie versus the reality of who she is, and, as played by Julianne Moore. And that kind of dynamic of what is real and what is fake, what is the delusion that someone has to have in order to make up this story and to live with it for the rest of their life, and how they grapple with that. And at the very same time, it's so subtle, and yet it's so well done, because it's not ham-fisted, it's not shoved down your throat, it's not preachy. But the way that Joe is portrayed in this film, played by Charles Melton, is absolutely phenomenal, because here you have these 2 battling, massive, dominating women. You have Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman, right? And you have Gracie, who is dominating as the lead character, who's going to be the subject of this film. And then you have Natalie Portman, who is this actress, this very famous actress, who is trying to get into the headspace of this woman, and they're just constantly trying to consume the dialogue and the story. And meanwhile, you have Joe, who's in the background, and yet his story is probably the most important of this entire film, where you see that they don't really care about him. Natalie Portman's character, Elizabeth, is a method actor, and she's going to do anything to play the perfect role. And so she will use everyone involved and try to manipulate them to get what she wants. Meanwhile, you have Gracie, who is trying to create this narrative so that her side of the story and her version of the story is what gets portrayed. And Joe is just represented as this person who hasn't had a chance to have any dialogue or any say or any part of this story. And I think that that's a really great way to represent what something like this would have done to a 12-year-old boy thrust into the limelight with such a horrific scandal, and on top of that, with this woman who has forced him into fatherhood at such an early age. And this is not just, oh, we fell in love, because that's definitely Gracie's narrative, is that, he was the older man. He was actually the more mature one, and I was innocent. But she had raised 3 kids prior. So she had already understood what it is to have a family and that kind of responsibility. And she knowingly thrusts that onto this young child, thus never allowing him to have a chance at any kind of childhood, right? To grow up, to experience things, to know what he wants to do in life. And so he just remains basically floating in this 13-year-old space where he's just been doing the motions of everything you need to do to raise 3 children and get them out of the house so that they can go to college and have a life you never can and will ever have, right? And I thought that was just phenomenally well done, the way that they utilized the idea of this woman who wants her story to be told in film, and Natalie Portman's character Elizabeth doing the research, that you kind of uncover a lot of the things, that it's not a reenactment, God forbid, and that it showcases the back trauma and the negligence of the woman who put this boy in this situation. And I just thought it was incredibly powerful, very uncomfortable, and so sad. I think the reason why Charles Melton is getting so much praise is because if you look at the guy, he looks like, your leading man, right? It just from looks. But the way he portrays Joe is very much like this lost 14-year-old boy who just doesn't understand what has happened to him, who has only been trying to do things that he thought is best, much like someone who just doesn't know any better and is looking to adults for guidance. And he's just lived his whole life like that. And so to watch, this man portray this boy is just really well done. And it's sad. It's so freaking sad. The only thing I just really did not like about this film was the direction and the editing. The way they would cut from scene to scene, and these are really powerful performances, but after each performance, you'd have this weird cut, and then there'd be this dramatic music like dun dun dun, and it felt like a Lifetime film, the way that you would transition from one of those sleazy Lifetime films. And I don't understand, it took me out of the film every single time, and the way that it was shot just felt like it was a Lifetime movie. It didn't feel very cinematic at all. Luckily, the performances, rise well above that. But I did not enjoy the way this was, translated onto film. But the script is absolutely phenomenal. I definitely give this a chance if you're interested in the explorations of these kinds of stories done from a very, I think, well thought out standpoint, where it's not done for the sleaziness, it's not done for the tabloid aspect, that really explores the psychological reality of a tragedy and the crime like this. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. And if you'd like to watch more, you can click right here or right here to watch more now. Until next time, see you on the flip side. Thank you.